In this video, we're finally ready to put down the flooring. It always feels great to reach this late stage of the renovation, but not so fast. Halfway through the floor, we run into a rusted out old toilet flange that'll have to be replaced before moving ahead and laying down the rest of the floor. And we're bringing running water into the bathroom today, remounting that vintage Kohler Peachblow slant-back sink. Let's get started. Here's the flooring we're gonna put in. It's these laminate tiles, 12 by 24. They just snap together real nice and easy. They make a really nice flooring. Now there's three issues with the placement that we have to figure out first. It's how far side to side to begin, is how far front and back we want to begin, and then getting a nice reference line so we don't have them slanted. For the side to side placement, we might not want to just start with a full tile up against the wall. We might want to cut it and start it with a partial tile, and I'll show you why in just a moment and how we figure that out. For going in this direction, you can see we can't just put a tile up against the tub because we have a curved tub and it would leave a gap here. We don't want a little piece of tile left over. To figure out the side to side placement, I just draw a really quick diagram, not to scale. Just looks like this, where I start off with the width of the room, 79 inches, and what would happen if I just did a full tile over here at 24, 24, with 7 inches left. And I draw it for 2 rows because after this, the pattern is just gonna repeat anyways. On the second row, that would mean I start halfway through the first tile with 12 inches, then full 24, and then finally I have 19 at the end. Now, this isn't that bad, but you notice the small tiles, 12 and 7, if we shifted everything to the left a little bit, we could average those out and get those closer. Same with the big ones at 24 and 19. Also, I really don't like having a full tile on the side. What if the wall bows out a little bit this way? We could end up with a gap in subsequent rows. So if we move everything this way 2 inches, we get something that looks like this. We use 22 inches for the first tile, then a full 24, and we end up here with 9. That gives us 10 on this small tile. 9 and 10, very even, 22 for the large, and 21 on this side. So this averages it out right in the middle. Getting a straight line to run these tiles off of in an old room like this can be harder than it looks. None of these walls are particularly straight. They seem to bow in or bow out. The tub is curved, so we can't really measure off of that. So what I'm going to do, I brought out my laser level. I drew a laser line on the ground here, and I'm gonna go off that back tile wall. I think that's gonna be the best bet. So if I measure off of this wall, our laser mark hits at about 44 and 7/8. If I go to this other side and do the same thing, we're right about at 44 and 7/8. So I'm gonna draw that line on the ground, just mark it with a marker, and then set these tiles up even with that. There we go. We have our marks. Now I'm gonna cut this first tile to the correct width like we figured out before. Then I'm gonna set up the tiles, put some tape on them, and then mark out where we're gonna cut for this tub contour. Whenever I'm about to start a project like this, I like to get a work area set up specifically for this job. It makes it go so much faster. So I set up a workbench, actually 2 little benches with a space between so I can cut right through a tile when I have to. We have a circle saw and a jigsaw, both set up with laminate cutting blades. We have a whole bunch of measuring and marking tools over here, some tape so that our tiles don't chip as we're cutting them, and of course eye protection and hearing protection. The first tile we're gonna lay needs to be cut at 10 inches. So let's go ahead and give this a try. Seems to cut pretty smoothly. I think I'll go ahead and wear respiratory protection as well when I'm cutting these because it really gives off a fine dust. I don't want to be breathing that in all day. Our first tile is cut at 10 inches and these tiles are lined up on the line that we made with our laser. But they're not in their final spot. They're going to have to be pushed forward. In fact, we eventually want the front edge of the tile piece to go a little behind this drywall. So I've used this level just as a straight edge to measure it out, and that gives us about 4 inches. At least 4 inches would be good there. So I've cut this piece of wood with this notch in it exactly 4 inches from the corner. We'll use this piece to trace out the contours of the tub. And I've set up this tape line right here so that we draw on the tape, and that's what we'll be cutting on as well. It also serves to temporarily hold these pieces together, and I've put a couple of pieces of tape on the sides too so that they don't shift while we're tracing this. That's what our line looks like. I'm going to very carefully cut in between the tiles, and then we'll make these cuts downstairs with the jigsaw. First 3 are set into place. Gives us a pretty tight fit around the tub. The flooring project was going really well, but we ran into a problem. The toilet flange we have is too rusty to be used. So a toilet flange is where the toilet connects to the floor and to the drain plumbing below it. Ours is gonna have to be replaced, so we're gonna have to do that before we can move on with the flooring. So let's put that project on pause for a minute and fix this flange first. What I'm doing is I'm drilling all around this perimeter. So this is the flange right here. This is the cast iron pipe. And inside of here is a whole bunch of lead solder. These are all the filings that have come out as I drill these holes. So far, it's still connected pretty solid. And when I do this, it lifts the whole pipe. So I'm just gonna have to keep working on this. All right, I've been working at this a little while. You can see this is pretty much emptied out. When I started hammering on it, I'm noticing that this is moving different than this. So when we're still moving to, oh, there we go. I think we got it. There we are, beautiful. Well, this isn't beautiful, but it's nice to finally get it out. This is the old toilet flange. We'll be replacing it with a new product that I'll show you what it looks like as soon as I get it in the mail. It's designed specifically for attaching into old cast iron like this. Here's the cast iron drain pipe that goes up to the toilet. What I'm gonna do is add a little bit of support here by securing this 2x6 up with a couple of angle brackets. Then I'm going to put this pipe strap up, and hopefully that'll give us a little more support where we just took out that toilet flange. The pipe is supported right now by a board placed on this jack. Now I barely touched the pipe. As soon as I saw it move maybe a 1/16 of an inch upward, I laid off the jack. I just want to have a little bit of upwards pressure while I go ahead and tighten this to our board, and that'll be our new support. because the new toilet flange isn't really going to hold it up there very well. You'll see that when I show you the mechanism of the type of flange we're going to use. Our new toilet flange came in, folks. Good news. So we're going to put this down right here. Looks a lot better than the old one, doesn't it? So here's how it works. This goes inside the cast iron pipe. It'll push inside, and this rubber ring right here, when we screw in these stainless steel bolts that they have, these 3 of them, it will expand this ring so that it pushes tight against the inside of that pipe. Now, it's super important that after we do that, we screw this into the floor, because when we screw the toilet down, it'll want to pull this up. And it isn't attached to the cast iron pipe except by this rubber ring right here, which does not provide a very good attachment. But I think before this goes in, I'm going to keep installing this floor out until we're past the pipe. This is a floating floor right here and really isn't supposed to be screwed into the ground in case we get any expansion, which you can get, especially with the temperature and moisture differences that happen in a bathroom. I wouldn't want any real expansion between here and the tub, where it'll be screwed down in the tub where we really only have 1/8 of an inch gap right there. We've made it this far on the floor. The last thing I want to do today is get this installed. So what we're going to do, I'm going to remove this insulation. Now I'm going to put this on and brush out the inside of the pipe a little bit, then wipe it down with acetone before we install this thing. A lot of rust and some actually burrs that are going to really get in our way for install. So the roughest stuff, I'm just going to chisel off. Don't want to drop anything down here, that's for sure. Using a file this time. It's a whole lot better. I mean, it's not going to be smooth. That's not going to happen. We're going to be installing the toilet on these 2 notches, so we do want to make sure that they're pretty much even. The wall bows in a lot here, so that's not the best place to gauge it by. We're going to take turns going all the way around these 3 bolts. All right, so I tightened it up just enough that it doesn't really move around. It's not like super tight yet or anything, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to screw it in place now. Probably the best to be stainless steel screws, but I do have these exterior grade screws that I'm going to put in. Remember, we're not going to draw it into the floor so tight that it presses the flooring down. That's not really the point. The point is so that it grips into the floor so that the toilet can't pull this up. All right, and there we go. This screw really didn't go into any wood. The other 4 did, so I think we're going to be looking pretty good for this. I think that looks a little bit better than the old one. What do you think? Now, let's not forget to finish tightening these. And now let's get the drain plumbing hooked up for this sink. It's gonna look like this, our setup. The sink flows through the trap and into the wall drain. This is called a Studor Vent, or an air admittance valve. They're really neat. They act like any other vent for your plumbing. They allow air in, but they don't let it out. So as the water is flowing through the pipe, air can replace it and you don't get sluggish draining. They're meant to be installed after the trap, and they're used in situations where your plumbing isn't hooked up to a vent or you don't have a vent nearby. The sink is in and the water is working great. No leaks so far, but we are minus a drain. We've got the plumbing hooked up most of the way for it already. So we're just gonna connect this up to it along with an extender. We're gonna be all ready to go. All right, a little bit of a problem here. We notice that our trap doesn't line up with the extender. I knew this might happen. I made these connections as short as I possibly could, but it still comes out a little bit too far. So I think what we're gonna have to do is make another trip to the store here and get one of those accordion style flexible extenders. Classic plumbing project. I've already been to the store twice. This will be my third trip today, but I don't even care. I'm actually in a good mood because this is going pretty well. Been waiting on this project to get done for a long time, so I'll see you back in just a little bit. And here is the product that I was talking about. I think this is gonna work. Notice how we can offset it a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and give this a try. All right, I'm liking it. Fits great without any real tension in the system. We'll go ahead and turn the water on. Don't feel anything, which is a good thing. All right, looking good.